Welcome to the Two Guys, One Coup podcast with Dale and Jim, where the truth matters and progressives' feelings don't. We bring you the facts from the perspective of two average, everyday guys who will never apologize for being America first, for adhering to our great Constitution, and for saluting the flag that our brothers and sisters have fought and died for. And now, here's Dale and Jim.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to One Guy, One Coup. I'm sorry, Two Guys, One Coup.
I've just been fired.
Episode 31. Welcome, everybody. Again, I hope you, Jim, and everybody had a very safe and Memorial Day weekend and remembered what it was all about.
Please.
And at least took time to reflect on that. So, anyways, episode 31, we've again have a lot to get through today. No niceties this morning. Let's just get right into it. What do you think, Jim?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay. Still on the hearts and minds of everybody is the school shooting in Uvalde, Texas. At the time of this recording, Jim,
Right.
So things may have changed by the time this is released, but at the time of this recording, there's been some relatively shocking details, not just about the horrific shooting itself and the lives that were lost and the children and teachers that were lost, but more in line to the response times, the police response times, the actions of the police. We reported last show, Jim, that CNN reported based on the interview at the time that the shooter was engaged by three officers.
Yeah, one initially, and then two.
One initially,
later.
then two. Again, I think that might have happened. There's some conflict on
because then there was a follow up with the guy, not the same guy that was interviewed on CNN. So I want to make that clear.
Yeah.
But it was another who said that the confrontation before he went into the school is incorrect. So that's what was said. I don't know. There's just something weird about this. So
there's something very, very strange. I'm going to get right into, Jim, some of the stories that have come out. Again, at the time of this recording, things may have changed, and we'll certainly update everybody on Thursday's show if that is the case. But a headline that kind of took me by surprise was this one, where it said Texas Department of Public Safety official says cops were reluctant to take out Uvalde shooter because, in quotes, they could have been shot. I understand that's a fear. I couldn't put myself in the shoes. I don't know if that's the case, and I'll get into the article, but before I start, I get that that's the risk they take every day, law enforcement in this country.
Right.
In a situation like this, I have a problem with some of this.
That's why you're doing the job.
Yeah, that's why you were hired. It was for situations like this. Anyways, let me get into this. The law enforcement response to the horrific school shooting in Uvalde Elementary School has been facing severe criticism after it was revealed that the shooter was alive inside the building for an hour without being taken out by police.
Now, look, we need to add during that hour, they were letting other kids, getting them to safety and things like that.
Yes.
So they weren't just standing there doing nothing. They were getting all the other children. However, they didn't need all of them to do that.
No, they did not. During this time, one brave mother drove 40 minutes from work, was handcuffed for trying to enter. Talked police into freeing her. She breached the perimeter and went in and got her children out of the building. So she got in, but she was handcuffed by him. Now, I want, before I even go on further, I understand kind of the situation. I'm trying to put myself into both sides of this story. You just can't have people running in, right, into a situation like this. You can't just free willy have everybody charge in the building. There could have been a lot more lives lost if that's the case. On this side of it, if my child was in there and I was seeing the cops not going in to get the shooter, well, you're going to have to kill me to not get into that school.
Yes.
I'm gonna do everything I can to get my ass into that school and protect my child or children. I'll go on. Police officers also reportedly entered the building and rescued their own children during this time. Again, there's so much to this story that I can see both sides of this. If I was a cop, this was happening at my child's school, and a lot of them had children in that school.
Mm-hmm.
Who am I going to look for first? Honestly, who my job is to protect my family first, then my community, then you know what I mean? When I'm here at home, the very first thing that is my responsibility as the male of the home is to protect my family.
Mm-hmm.
I will go to any cost to do that. So I see both sides. So I don't think it's necessarily a negative that he went in to get his own kid or cops did. I don't know. What's your thought on that, Jim?
Well, my whole problem is that he was isolated in one classroom.
He was.
So
well,
all you had to do is put cops outside the door. So if he tried to go down the hallway, he's done. Mm-hmm. But somebody should have tried to get in there. Couldn't you go from the outside, shooting in at him from the outside? Yeah, he's going to shoot at you, but you have protection. You have bulletproof vests. You have all the stuff he had on.
You have shields. You have. That's right.
And I guarantee you they had ARs as well. So I mean, something's not right about it. I mean, I don't know what it is, and I don't want to sit here and speculate. But if the reports are coming out, mm-hmm. Something seriously happened. Look, if they went and got other kids out, I understand the whole thing about you being a parent, the child's in there.
Yeah.
And maybe they didn't know there was only one shooter. Maybe they thought there was more than one shooter. We just don't know. We don't know what was going through their head. All I know is, and all we know is, he was isolated to the one classroom because all the kids that died were in that classroom. So I think.
Yeah.
I believe that's the case.
Again, I believe that is the case too. Let me go on here. When questioned about the response by CNN's Wolf Blitzer, Texas Department of Public Safety Lieutenant Chris Oliveira said that the police were reluctant to engage the killer because they could get shot. I can't stand that statement.
No,
that alone to me is you are in the wrong profession. By far the wrong profession. And again, I don't want to blame the cop. It's the shooter. It's the shooter. It's his mental health. The reason everybody was put in this position is, and I don't want this to be, I'm cop bashing. You know, Jim, you and I, especially you, we are fully behind our first responders and law enforcement and military. But there's bad apples everywhere, and we know that. When there's bad apples, you got to call them out,
not
it or not.
Necessarily bad apples, but cowards. And cowards are I'm sorry. Look, could I?
The shooter was a coward, in my opinion.
Well, no, he was too. There's no question about it. But if a police officer who swore to uphold and protect the community was afraid to get shot at while children were being killed, I'm sorry.
Correct.
That's coward. I mean, that's a coward. And not all we talked about it. Not all police officers are perfect. Not all of them are. There's a lot of police officers in that line. We see it all the time. They put themselves in harm's way to protect the community. And
all the time.
So I don't know. I know this is speculation right now, and we always talk about CNN. Is somebody turning this to their own story? I hope not, because it's a horrible.
Well, I hope not either. But it happened during an interview. This is his actual response to it.
Right.
I am not a Wolf Blitzer guy. I'm not a CNN guy. Right. I think they're all full of shit. But this was his response. Wolf Blitzer kind of responded to him and that statement by saying, "Don't current best practices, don't they call for officers to disable a shooter as quickly as possible, regardless of how many officers are actually on site?" That's what Wolf Blitzer asked. And that's a good question. I mean, I'll give Wolf Blitzer credit for coming back that. The official explained that, though the police were in the building quickly, they heard gunfire and decided to wait for a tactical team to arrive while isolating the killer to that class. Almost like those children were sacrificial lambs.
That's what it sounds like to me.
it's unreal. I couldn't imagine a parent even reading this statement, or because that's what happened. So here's other quotes: the active shooter situation. You want to stop the killing. You want to preserve life, but also one thing that, of course, the American people need to understand that officers are making entry into this building. They do not know where the gunman is. They are hearing gunshots. They are receiving gunshots, Oliveira said. At that point, if they proceeded any further, not knowing where the suspect was at, they could have been shot. They could have been killed, and that gunman would have had an opportunity to kill other people inside that school. I almost 100% disagree with that statement. Right?
Mm-hmm.
If you have two cops, you've already you have outnumbered the shooter. Now, like I said, they might think there's 5 shooters. Again, it's a situation that happens quickly, and how people react to it is what matters. But they train for this shit. You know what I mean?
Well, like I
This
said,
is trainable.
most every classroom has a window.
Most.
Now, I don't want to say I don't want to say this for sure because I don't know the school layout.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it was an inside classroom that didn't have windows, because I have seen them. I have seen where there's no windows.
Sure.
So if there's no windows, then fine, I'm wrong. But peek around the corner, see where the shooter's at. The shooter's not looking at the door.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you got, and if you see him raise his gun to you, dive out of the way. I mean, I don't know. I'm not
I'm not a cop either. I don't know, Jim.
Yeah, I'm not a police officer. Sorry. I don't know. And only police officers can know. But right now, with everything that's out there, it doesn't look good. And the whole point of the matter is, this was a very sick individual that decided that his life was so miserable that he's going to take other people out with him when he went. And those are the worst form of people. There's a nice place in hell where he is going to be at. So
there is. Kind of a little further on this story. It's reported that the school resource officer on scene failed to stop the shooter and was wounded as the killer entered the school from an unlocked door, by the way, in the back of the school that was supposed to be locked. Right. So there's got to be, this is all unnecessary to me. This was all an unnecessary tragedy that should have been avoided multiple ways by catching this son of a bitch prior to, because of his posts on Instagram or Facebook or whatever social media site he was using, Snapchat, I don't know. It could have been flagged and stopped then. It could have been stopped with armed protection at the school. It could have been stopped if you just locked the doors. There's so many things that did not happen here. And it might have been stopped and avoided earlier if police would have rushed the school and did what they were trained and supposed to do in a situation like that, to me. Again, so many good officers out there that risk their lives, and I can't thank them enough for doing it.
Yeah.
This situation is sketchy to me, though. Yeah. Like it or not, and I'm not trying to be one of those conspiracy theory, or I'm not trying to be a liberal bedwetter who's, the cops are to blame, because that's clearly not the case. The cops have no blame in the shooter going into that school.
Right.
And that's the important part. Real quick here, Jim, and there's more on it, but you and I will be talking about this for a while. So it's on last Wednesday now. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer blocked a school safety bill that Republican leaders and families of the Parkland school shooting have been trying to pass for years.
Families of the Parkland shooting.
Families of the Parkland. So listen to that. But good old Chucky Schumer blocked that. After the tragic mass shooting in Texas, which left 19 children dead, Senator Ron Johnson requested the Luke and Alex School Safety Act to be passed by unanimous consent. Senate Bill 111, named after Parkland High School shooting victims, Luke Hoyer and Alex, I'm going to say his name right, but Schachter, it's Schachter. So it's would require the Department of Homeland Security to establish a federal clearinghouse on school safety best practices. So this would be nationally. what these best practices. The clearinghouse would be employed by state and local educational institutions, law enforcement agencies, health professionals, and public service entities. According to this bill, the measure would require DHS, Department of Homeland Security, to collect clearinghouse data analytics, user feedback on the implementation of best practices and recommendations identified by the clearinghouse, and any evaluations conducted on the best practices and recommendations. Does that make sense to you? I'm trying to read the bill, and it's filled with that kind of language. It sounds to me, from what I've gathered so far, and I've reached out to other people to try to see if they're familiar with it, what the story is on it. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure it out.
Right.
It sounds to me like it's a matter of arming the schools. And I'll tell you why I say that is because Chuck Schumer claims that this would just add more guns into school systems. Well, yeah, but with the right protection and the right people. Schumer's a douche.
How many times do we have to hear? I mean, because we have these all the time, and people come up with, if a teacher wants to carry, a teacher should be allowed to carry. If a teacher doesn't want to carry, the teacher doesn't have to carry.
Doesn't have to carry.
But having guns or protection in the school for something, and 10 times out of 10, basically. I mean, how this doesn't happen a lot. I know it. Yeah. You know, it happens, and it's terrible. But they need to be prepared for it. They need to be trained. You don't just go give somebody, here, you want a gun? Here you go. No, they got to be trained. There's programs you can firing it. Because you and I talked about this, okay? And it's been all over the place. How much money did we give to the Ukraine? We gave them $43 billion. Yep. That could have went and spread out to all the schools in our country to help them protect the school.
One of them. But it's some crazy figure, like $400,000
Mm-hmm.
to every school for this kind of protection.
Yep. And
that's a lot.
Look, like I told you, a lot of our schools in the area that I am at do have officers in the school. However, the officers only can, they can only cover certain parts of the school. So as a school, you can't leave a door unlocked.
You just can't.
How many times we see the one entry point? You can only enter one way. Okay.
One way.
Now get it. Fences don't keep anybody out. Because they're going to jump over the fence. They can shoot out the windows and come in. We know that. Okay. But you got to have adherence plans. Would a shooter go into a school if they know they could be shot back at?
Do they ever go into a gun shop and start mass shooting?
Yeah. So,
no. Why?
I know that everybody
zones, they target gun-free zones, and elementary schools are the easiest target.
Especially, you've got everybody out there, like the people that everybody listens to when they want to talk about laws and everything. The View, you got people like The View that want to repeal the Second Amendment. Yeah. Let's overreact. Let's do that. Yeah.
Let's do the overreaction scheme.
Folks, getting rid of guns is not the problem. We've talked about this before. The two of the most stringent gun cities in this country, okay, gun ban cities, regulations on guns in the cities is Chicago and New York.
Yep, correct.
The bad people get the guns.
People get the guns.
So you want one idiot that goes out there and does this, and you want to take away from everybody else the right to own that, because they're not going to do what this idiot just did.
Correct.
And there's things we can do, guys. That, go ahead.
I'm pretty sure illegal fentanyl is illegal in this country, yet it still gets its way in, and people are dying at massive rates, far further than guns, which I know you talk about.
Well, not just that. How many kids die being on their cell phones in the car?
Texting, right?
Yeah.
Texting,
how many kids
driving.
die? More kids die of texting than shooting in schools.
Correct.
So are we going to ban cell phones? Are we going to, you talked about fentanyl. We talked about before this time. Are we going to build a wall to keep that fentanyl coming in? Because, those individuals that lost children to overdoses because of fentanyl was in, or fentanyl was in a drug that they didn't, somebody said, here, take,
they laced it.
Granted, don't take a pill from anybody that you don't know or you don't know very well or something like that. But the whole point of the matter is that fentanyl is coming across illegal on our borders. Yeah. More people are dying of that than guns in our in our cities.
More.
So we're not trying to make an agenda here, guys. This isn't an agenda. What can we do? You can't have one way, but then allow other people to die another way. It's just
Let me get real quick back to this Schumer shit, okay? Because here's a quote from him, and it starts out, "The truth," which I know is now a lie from Chuck Schumer. "The truth, there were officers at the school in Texas," Schumer tweeted. "The shooter got past them. We need real solutions. We will vote on gun legislation starting with the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act." So this is what I wanted to get to, Jim, because you talked about this a couple episodes ago. What is actually in the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act? Schumer says he is up for re-looking at this Senate bill, and I want to make sure I get it right again, but it's the Luke and Alex School Safety Act. He'll re-look at that again if Republicans will go ahead and move forward with the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act. So he's using that, which we know is a bullshit bill. And again, he's holding children hostage. He's killing children to me because you won't sign this because you want to classify just one group as domestic terrorists.
That's the problem.
And that's, so that to me is, and of course I'll finish my portion of this with, probably one of the most unified presidents in our nation, the guy who brought the nation back together, the guy who ended racism, the guy who provided jobs for everybody, specifically the Black community, Barack Obama. He tweeted, and I know most people have probably heard this already, but here's what he tweeted on the 25th of May. So that was 2 days after the shooting. I'm sorry, I should know the date, but as we grieve the children of Uvalde today, we should take time to recognize that 2 years have passed since the murder of George Floyd under the knee of a police officer. His killing stays with us all to this day, especially those who loved him. That motherfucker tweeted that out. Sorry about the language. But that motherfucker tweeted that out 2 days after the shooting. I know we're mourning the children, but wait. We really need to recognize St. Floyd of fentanyl, as a buddy of mine, Larry, calls him, and I appreciate that. That's disgusting.
We have to remember the knee on the neck did not kill George Floyd. It was the methamphetamines that was laced with fentanyl that he took before he was handing out fake bills, people. This was not, I just get I am so done with this. I am so done with this whole
with the
thing.
George Floyd bullshit.
He did not die. Now that cop should have been fired. That cop did wrong. No way should you ever do that to anybody. I don't care who it is. They're on the ground. They're handcuffed. You don't do that. You don't need
to do it at that point.
You don't need to.
At that point.
But the first coroner's report that came out, he died of fentanyl. So it was his family's lawyers that went out and found another one, paid this other one to basically, oh, no, it wasn't. It was the throat. If you look at the way the
fentanyl contributed to it, but he died because of suffocation.
But if you look at it, he was still moving his head when his knee was on him. So I don't want to have this discussion anymore. George Floyd was a piece of shit that died because he died because of the decisions he made. Not because of this police officer, not because of you, not because of me, because of the decision he made. That's what happened. That's how he died.
And put him in the same
exactly.
Put him in the same category as 19 innocent children, 2 innocent teachers, and now the teacher's husband who had a massive heart attack the day after the shooting and has died. To put those people in the same category as that sick, that asshole son of a bitch wasted human life of a person, George Floyd. All because of like you said, the actions he took himself. That he was a waste of a human. Tells me exactly everything you need to know about Barack Obama, and I'm going to say 95% of the Democrats.
If people out there who love this man,
sick assholes
who love that man, look,
that's right.
I'm sorry. If you really look at the numbers for this guy, look at him all the way through, and all these people that say he had never had any issues in the time he was in president. IRS, Benghazi. Let's just throw this stuff.
Iran money.
I guarantee you, the Iran money, Steele dossier. I guarantee you, he had a part in that. I'm sorry, he did.
Yeah, he did.
But this
He's
was probably
scumbag son of a bitch.
You know, in retrospect, with what he did, with what he accomplished, I still think he's one of the 5 worst presidents we ever had. And look, I didn't like the guy. I didn't like his politics. By the way, I don't give a crap what color he was. Okay. The point of the matter was,
gives a shit.
He did nothing for the African American community other than, hey, look, there's a black guy president. Great. That's awesome. Exactly. He did more for illegal aliens than he ever did for the African American community.
He did.
Okay. He was a terrible president. And to make that comment about a worthless piece of shit that died, I'm done. I've had enough hearing about that guy. I want to go freaking damage the portrait that's up there in Minneapolis with him with wings coming out.
They should immediately remove
the
that.
reason why that is the case. Look at all
city.
These stupid businesses that gave money to him. The Black Lives Matter to help support this because of that. This guy's useless. And for that guy, the president who served on the highest position in the world, the most powerful man in the world, compares 19 children to teachers, talks about it at the same time. I'm sorry.
Yep.
I can't stand the guy Obama, to begin with, but
that pushed me over the edge. Yep. That literally did push me over the edge. And it didn't take much because, like you said, I can't stand Barack Obama. I think he was terrible for this country. I think he was terrible for the black community. I think he was terrible for everything that happens in America. I really do. Yep. I think he was a useless senator. He didn't even show up half the time. Yep. He was some stupid community organizer who hung around with terrorists, and that's who became president. We suffered through it. We got through it. Look at the stories, and then for him to do something like that was the one that pushed me. When I saw it, I couldn't believe it. I had to look it up to say, did somebody make a fake Twitter account? Is this a fake? There's no fucking way he did this. He did not say this at this time at this. Sure enough, he sure did. It's still up there. He doesn't care. He's a scumbag asshole. He's as useless to me as George Floyd. Lastly,
we got on a soapbox there because I'm sorry, I've had it. I don't want to hear about George Floyd anymore. I don't want to hear about it.
I don't either. Well, when shit like this happens, you're going to hear about it because
that's what I mean. Just stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Stop it already. On top of that, we have somebody who's running for governor in Texas who crashed the news conference the day after the horrific murders. Robert Francis O'Rourke. Some of you might know him as Beto. I don't care what you call him. He's also in the same category to me as Barack scumbag asshole Obama. When he crashed that news conference, screaming while the governor's up, there are parents in this. It was in an auditorium. There are parents in there of the school children. There are grieving people. The cops are in there. The mayor of Uvalde was in there, and God bless him because he really gave Beto some shit. But Beto, if you didn't see it, I don't know where you've been under a rock. Look it up. He walked up to the stage and started screaming, "You got to do something, Governor Abbott. You got to stop gun. You got to put in gun control." He started screaming the gun bullshit, over and over again. All on film. You can go watch it. And the mayor of Uvalde, just ripped him a new asshole. And they got him out of there. But that's another example of there's a time and a place to talk about gun control, about further restrictions, about not at a news conference when you're trying to determine what happened, how we're going to try to resolve this. We're mourning for the parents at that time, absolutely. And then all the Democrats and all the liberal Hollywood fucks who are like, if I see one more thoughts and prayers, I can't stand them. Steve Kerr's the same way. We talked about him. I finally watched that, by the way. And I wanted to put a bullet in his head while he was screaming there. Coach basketball, basically, I don't even think you do that well. You just got lucky with who you got on the team. Yeah. But anyways, it's driving me nuts. The whole Hollywood scene, everybody out there, you don't live in reality, guys. You do not live in reality. And you don't live in a country that man, Jim, we've got friends. We got friends on Facebook. Well, my wife more than me has a friend who is like, basically, Well, I'm glad that we sacrificed all these children so Americans can keep their guns. Well, you escaped Brazil and you came over here and you got your citizenship finally. Why? Go the fuck back.
Yeah.
Get out of this country.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. I don't care if I'm called some sort of neo-Nazi because I'm America first and I care about the founding fathers and the documents that created this country and Christianity and everything else, which I know my language doesn't say Christianity. I get that. Like I said before, I'm not a Bible thumper, but I do believe. That kind of shit to me that's what's got to stop. Those are domestic terrorists to me. Those are domestic. Jim, I am sorry. I went on and on. And thank you everybody for listening to my bitching and Jim's bitching and everything else.
Guns don't kill people. Guns are not the problem. Look, if you want to talk restriction over control, let's do it. Okay. Yeah. When you talk control, no, because control is deciding who gets a gun and who doesn't, what kind of gun you get. No. When something like this happens, you take the rest of the country who are law-abiding citizens, who those guns will never do what that idiot did with the guns, right? So now we're going to punish everybody else. That's what the left likes to do.
That's
punish
what
everybody.
That's what they want to do.
And if
they do that all the time.
Think for a minute, let's say you ban guns altogether. If somebody wants to cause harm to people, now we're going to get into explosives. Now we're going to get into driving a car through a parade.
We say it all the time.
And now, guys, we got to work on the healthcare, mental health of what's going on. And I'm sorry, Facebook, Zuckerberg, instead of blocking any COVID reference, instead of instantly cutting COVID comments. You and I can't get on Facebook because we talk about how bad 2020 or YouTube. We can't get on there because we talk about 2020 elections. These people are going out there and saying these things on these posts, on these platforms. You can't tell me they don't have a bot that can figure that out, find that out, and then send it to them.
If they have a bot where I say COVID and something pops up, or election integrity and it pops up, or removes me immediately for community standards, which is a bunch of bullshit in itself. Yeah. If somebody's on there posting pictures of this or saying words like, shooting, I'm going to shoot, I'm going to kill, those things, they can flag them. Social media to me is a cesspool
all they care about is, look, just like the left, domestic terrorism are conservatives. That's what domestic terrorism to them are. That's how they are. And folks out there, friends of mine, people who are left, who feel that way, I'm sorry, this is what's going on. I am deemed as the bad guy because of the way I feel, because of how I feel. I'm deemed as a domestic terrorism. But these Antifa and Black Lives Matter people that go out and burn cities down and everything else, they're not in that. They are not on there. That domestic terrorism bill that they're talking about passing, we talked about it before. Those groups aren't in there. The Moms for Liberty are in there.
Yep.
Okay. Correct. This is ridiculous, folks. This is what it is. You liberals, this is what you want. Mm-hmm. It's not going to work. It never works. And I got another story about schools if we want to switch to the next.
Yes. So we're going to go to the next one. Before I do that, I meant to say at the top of the show that this episode, you also are going to hear part 2 of Paige Miller's, our interview with Paige Miller from Moms for Liberty. I hope everybody is listening to that and sharing it, because it's school involvement. It's parent involvement. It's what's going to change everything in our schools, including these kind of incidents. I mean, it all ties together because you're indoctrinating your kids and mentally fucking them up.
And now's the time to do it. Most schools are out for the summer. Now's the time for teachers, faculty, administration to get together, say, okay,
parents,
what are we, and parents, what are we going to do to protect the kids? What are we going to do?
Yeah. So I wanted to make sure I said that. I meant to say at the top of the show, Paige, I apologize to you for not bringing that up right away.
We'll
but anyways, Jim, let's get on to our our next segment here on the show. So whenever you're ready.
Yeah, I wanted to add a few things to what we talked about, just real quick to kind of follow up on some things. A parent from the Parkland shooting, like you talked about, this bill that they're trying to pass, he mentioned a father who lost his daughter. Okay. He mentioned that he wants to oh, shit. Here it goes. Sorry. probably going to go off. Nope. All right, good. That was a very professional, aren't we?
Yeah.
Andrew Pollock,
Right,
whose daughter
you're
was
right.
killed in Parkland shooting, says that gun control is not the answer. It's protecting our schools is how this gets resolved. Now, there's a lot of families, as Dale pointed out, that are going towards this to try to push this bill to help protect our families. And that $43 billion that went to Ukraine probably should have went to this.
Think?
That probably would have been a better thing. But no, what the Dems are going to do is they're going to want to, let's go out and get more money. Let's do this and let's do that.
Borrow it from China.
That's part of what we have. But then another thing that we need to talk about is from Texas, Donna, Texas. Police and the FBI arrested 2 males, adult males, and 2 minority males for threats to a school in the Donna, Texas district, those schools in that area, because of vigilant people that saw what they were saying, saw how they were acting. They were turned over to the police. That's how this gets fixed. Because how many times do we have to see this? How many times do we have to watch somebody posted a video, what they were going to do? Okay. Correct. Somebody told a friend what they were going to do. Somebody did this, somebody did that, and nobody says anything. Those are always the ones that happen, like Uvalde.
Correct.
That's how that happens. You've got to speak up. I mean, we have to speak up. We can't be afraid to point these things out, to say these things. The repercussions, fine. You just sit there and say, okay, you might have caused some problems. All right, I'd rather might have caused a problem than no one listened to me or me not saying anything, and then something happens at a school. It's just horrible. But the police in the system worked on this one.
Correct. Because of outside involvement, because of I'm guessing the general public who reported this, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But
I wonder where, Jim, it brings up a good point. I wonder where they saw this information. Does it say, was it a post on Facebook? Was it a video? Did they say it all?
Yes, it was their social media, and it was talking to friends, talking to families that, hey, these individuals, is all of that. But everything combined. More is to come out. Okay. It's just a basic story that talked about that, because they got to find out what everything happened. But
the reason I ask is the social media thing. The reason I ask if it's Facebook is, did Facebook flag that?
No.
Did Facebook?
No.
So let me ask you a question real quick. I want to get your opinion.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I'm interrupting you.
No.
If you got something to say it.
No.
I'll ask after.
Repeat it.
Okay. If I go on Facebook and I've got an AR and I'm like, I'm going to shoot up a mall, and Facebook flags it and removes it, nobody can see it. Therefore, how can you report it?
We're not saying remove it. It needs to go directly to law enforcement.
So they can take it right from there
to
law enforcement.
Come on.
You say should be able to do.
Are you kidding? They can access our phones at any point in time they want to. You're trying to tell me that they can't do this?
I'm asking.
No, it's just, but so far it sounds like what should have happened with a lot of other shootings, this did happen. The FBI doesn't get involved unless they were asked to come in. Okay? Correct. The FBI does not investigate people who are going to shoot schools unless something has triggered them in doing this. This happened to have been four people.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that could have been bad,
can you imagine?
Right? That could have been real bad, but it worked. So we just have to fix it. We have to work together. Stop screaming. Stop listening to the view. Oh, stop listening, because they're all a bunch of freaking idiots to begin with. But stop listening about yelling and screaming. You can yell all you want, guys. Yell all you want. I mean, because Beto O'Rourke yelling and doing this, and then O'Biden getting out there and pounding his fist about anger towards this stuff, and then he turns around and passes a bill that prohibits police officers from getting what they need. And it's like,
correct.
Really? It's just, this administration and these people are idiots. They're complete idiots. And guess what, folks? At least you're not getting mean tweets anymore.
That's right.
I hope you're happy.
You're getting wonderful tweets, like remember St. George,
and then Jim, the one other thing that I wanted to add, keep an eye on this one. Okay, the Buffalo shooter.
This is the one I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
So that's why I was going to say.
I need everybody to
talk about it.
Watch this story because I think this is where we're heading, which in some cases we should head this way. But apparently this shooter went out to a chat room that he goes out to and talks to other white supremacists. Well, in this chat room, of the 30 people, around 30 people that are in this chat room, one of them was an ex-federal agent. Why he was in this chat room, I do not know. I don't know if when he was a active FBI, he was in there because that's what his job was. I'm not speculating at all. All I can tell you is that the FBI is thinking about anybody that was in that chat room that heard what he said and can prove that they were listened to him and did nothing to stop it. They're going to be held as conspirators towards this crime, which includes an ex-FBI agent. Correct. So again, this situation, people knew it was going to happen. Nobody called the authorities.
Yep.
No one.
Nobody in that group.
Nobody in the group.
Right? Because they're the ones.
Well, they're all white supremacists anyway. They're all pieces of shit.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, they're George Floyds. They're white George Floyds.
Yep, exactly. Exactly.
I'm sorry. Exactly. I don't know if George Floyd hated white people, but white supremacists are the scum of the earth. They're
scum of the earth.
They're just horrible human beings, and
they are. But so that you and I talked off air on this a little bit before the show, and I understand. I understand in this case that is correct. It always worries me when we start looking at who knew what and how much trouble those people can get in, because how much do you need to know before you're now a conspirator and you could be, at a minimum fined, at a maximum, lots of jail time. So, I mean, there's always that fine line when they, like you said, you give them this, like, okay, if this happens and this will set a precedent, I'm certain, of some sort for future litigations. So if you give them that fine line, where does it go from there? I agree. These assholes should all be locked up, right? Because I don't believe in that group. I don't believe in them. But when you and I on our podcast, when does our speech become threatening, and those who are listening to us are also part of a what they could claim as domestic terrorist people, right?
Yep.
I mean, when could that happen?
No, you make a good point, but because you're right. The left,
I agree with this one.
The left can't tell. All right. Do I want the left making this law? Hell freaking no.
I do not.
Hell freaking no.
No.
However, something like this had happened where you're in this chat room where you're seeing all this stuff that occurred and all of this stuff. It's no different than, let's go back to some of these Facebook posts or live feeds or whatever they do on Instagram, Snapchat or whatever, where they're talking about killing themselves, and you've got people going in there and do it. And then they get in trouble. Okay. Yeah. This is what we're talking about, this type of thing. But again, I get what you're saying, because I don't want the left to make this law, because
I don't
that situation, yes, they need to go to jail. They need to be in trouble because they could have stopped this from the beginning. But
they could have. Yep.
In the situation of this girl, that this idiot from Uvalde she didn't know who he was, had no idea.
Yeah.
Just started doing this stuff. Should she be held accountable? Because I think she's probably feeling like crap, that she maybe felt she could have done more. But I don't blame her.
She probably does.
I don't blame her at all.
I don't either.
I don't blame her.
No,
now, the friend.
I don't either.
The friend where he was getting videos of all the munitions in his backpack, the pictures of it. I think he probably now wishes he would have called somebody and said, hey, I think there might be a problem. But should he be held? No, this is not what we're talking about. This is where,
but it could get to that point.
Well, and see that I know, and that's where you come in. That's what your point that you're trying to make, and I completely agree with that. But I think this is where we're headed. I really do. I think this is where we're headed, and just wait. I'm pretty sure parents are going to get in trouble for this eventually at some point in time.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
But anyway, I want to add something real quick because of the Memorial holiday. One of my favorite movies that I watched, and I won't get into the political side of things because we could spend all day doing that. But the movie Black Hawk Down, the 2001 movie Black Hawk Down, a lot of us watched it. Probably the first time ever that I was in a movie theater full of people. I mean, full of people watching this movie. Nobody talked on the way out. It was that emotional. It was like the Kyle American Sniper movie. Oh my God! When you're watching those things at the end, I mean, if you don't get choked up, then you're a liberal.
Well,
but but his name was Tom Satterley.
That's the truth.
It's Tom Satterley, and he was a highly decorated combat veteran who was portrayed in the movie. Okay,
correct.
This was the 1993 Somalia, Mogadishu, and everybody who had it.
Black Hawk helicopter.
And it was
crashed.
It was a big thing. Yeah. Basically, it was a big mistake under the Clinton administration. And look it up, folks, because it was a huge. They did not get the equipment they asked for. No, nope. And so they had to go in as was, and it
kind of reminds me of a Benghazi situation.
Well,
in a way.
Surprisingly, not surprisingly. Well, what I like the fact was he grew up in Indiana, so we're fellow Hoosier, so respect there. But he went through PTSD, as most soldiers would.
Could he not
during this stuff? Okay, and he was suicidal. He was suicidal. He just look, guys. This is a real deal. The PTSD is a real deal of people who were in combat operations, who lost loved ones, who could have died themselves, who left loved ones behind. And so he went through this PTSD. His wife just stood behind him the whole time. She didn't leave him, just like Chris Kyle. His wife stood behind him the whole time. Let's get this fixed. Let's get this fixed. Yep. So now they're going around and they're helping soldiers coming back from war that have PTSD. They're helping them. They're going through counseling. They're putting them through. And they're just doing it, just the two of them. And
admirable.
These are the stories that we need to hear. Okay, not Sammy wants to become Johnny or Susie wants to become Pete. This is what we need to talk about. This needs to be out there. This needs to be in the news more, because folks, this man and people like him are why we can have these ridiculous fights. They're why. It's
their why.
Because
it's freedom.
Of them.
Freedom.
It's because of them.
Because of them.
And when we forget it and we stop talking about it, that becomes a real problem, because these people die for us every day. And I can tell you right now,
they're doing this in our schools. They are stopping talking about all of this.
Yeah. Conservatives, almost all conservatives are definitely pro-military. Some left are, they do their little things, but let's stop the bull crap. This is going to be after the fact, but on times like that, we just have to remember who they were, what they did, and watch Black Hawk Down, guys. I mean, if you just watch it, it was intense, and we weren't
from
even
beginning
there
to end,
and we weren't even there. And like I said, take away the whole thing of what happened with the politics, with as few as men who died from our military, and how many they killed.
Correct.
We're pretty solid. We are pretty bad-ass military. And
we are.
Let's remember them. Let's always remember them, not just on holidays, not just on this, not because we get to go out, and we get to go out and grill out and have parties and do all this stuff. Let's not forget why. Let's not forget what happened. Let's not forget. And also first responders, remember them. This is Memorial Day for them as well.
It is.
Because guys, these folks from military, you go to police who people want to take their money away, to defund the police and this and that.
Yeah.
But guess what? They're still going to be at your door to help you if you need them. So you can cut them down anytime you want. You can cut them down anytime, and it's horrible. You shouldn't do it, but let's remember them. Let's just do it. I mean, it's a sad thing. And and like I said, that's what I love that movie. Not, I like watching it because of the story, because of, I mean, come on, guys. I mean, I know this is Hollywood and this was everything else, but these are brothers. These are brothers they never left the fallen man. And they never left the pilot from the Black Hawk that went down. They never left him.
Never left him.
Never left him. Delta Force, 2 Delta Force members died protecting him against unsurmountable. They knew they were going to die when those choppers dropped them down. Watch the movie, guys. This is who we need to respect, not Chuck Schumer, not Mitch McConnell. These people like that. These are the ones that we need to.
Those are the heroes.
So get off my soapbox.
Which also,
and stop watching The View.
You look at that story, and then you look at the cops that did not go into the school, and it's like, boy, it's just two different breeds, man. I'm just telling you, it's just
glad
two
we
different
have
breeds.
them. Glad we
have them. Yep, for sure.
You and I, though, we love this country. You know,
my God.
I love this country for everything it stands for, even the bad stuff.
Correct.
Because
the bad stuff is what made our country.
No. I'm
you got to
talking
get
now.
through bad stuff and learn. Yeah, even now.
Yeah, I'm talking
Correct.
now.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Because we all know what the bad stuff we've done before. But I'm sorry, liberals, they don't give an F about anything other than killing babies, and making sure little Susie can become Johnny, and we pay for that. You know, because that's what needs.
And Jim, I'm not. I understand now, but if it's not stopped, I don't know that it'll ever. It just keeps getting worse. And every generation says that. And I remember my dad saying, "Boy, when I was a kid, things were better than they are now." But there's a reason it's happening. You know, it's not very. Republics don't last very long. You know, I mean, so democracies and republics, I mean, I know there's many democracies out there, but we're a republic. It's different. Look it up, kids.
Show me a true socialist country that succeeded the size that we are. Because I don't want anybody to throw out Sweden. I don't want you to do that. They don't have near the people that we have. Okay.
Oh, God, not even close.
And we have a lot of people that want to live off the backs of others. Okay.
Yep.
So socialism, communism will not work in this country.
Correct.
It won't work.
Correct. Yep.
Give it up.
It won't.
So let's everybody just work together, get a job, take care of your family, take care of yourself, and don't depend on the government. Because you want Nancy Pelosi deciding what you're going to eat and when? I don't.
Yeah.
I don't want her to speak, let alone.
Not me neither. Me neither.
But
we sure would have a lot of vodka.
I know we get on our soapbox a lot about this, but it just makes you and I don't know how many times we get angry, and we already said it, and I know we sound like a broken record, but those mean tweets, those standing up and back talking the politicians or anybody that talked against them. Yeah, the country was running well.
It was running well, and it was better. It was better
for everybody.
There was more American pride. Last time I saw American pride like that was 9/11.
Keep in mind, guys, it was the left that caused all the racist problems, not him. It was the left coming out and accusing him of being racist. It was the left coming out and accusing him of this and accusing that because they couldn't make any damage. His approval rating in the African American community was higher than any. I'm going to go back to say probably higher than any Republican combined since Reagan.
Yeah,
since Reagan, probably
since Reagan.
And so which you saw that thing that I posted from TikTok. Whoever put that on TikTok, man, it was Ronald Reagan speaking, and Dale and I don't know how many times we say this. I don't care who you are. If you listen to that man speak, we lived through it, right? We lived through the Cold War. We lived through all this stuff.
We did. Very.
I don't know what it was about his voice,
presidency.
But I was a little less scared every time he talked. I was
every time.
I was.
He was reassuring and strong, and we can go into another show about Ronald Reagan, But I mean, just absolutely, you're right, Jim. We got to get to part 2 of our. So some good news, people. You get to hear Jim and I not talk for a little bit and somebody else talk. We're getting into part 2 of a 4-part series with our interview with Paige Miller from Moms for Liberty out of Hamilton County, Indiana. Correct. Right, Jim?
Yep.
Am I right about that? It's Hamilton County. You'll get to hear more about what's going on in our school system, about her experience. As we mentioned before, she was 30 plus years a teacher. So no better person to tell you what's going on inside the school system than somebody who was in it for
who actually long. A teacher cared about your children learning.
Correct. Correct. So, Jim, I'm just going to throw it right over to part 2 of the
Let's
interview. We'll come back to wrap it up afterwards. Things like this are happening when you can't get into your schools. And tell us again when you went and you had to read those books, what was besides them telling you didn't have community standards, has there been any updates since then? Have the books been removed, or are they still there?
They are still there.
This is ridiculous, Paige.
And the books are still there.
And and don't you love it when because my favorite thing now is we're book burners, right?
Oh,
that's what we're being accused of right now. You want to burn books, we don't believe in that and everything else. And I'm like, I didn't say burning the book. I just said, is it appropriate to be taught in class, in kindergarten, for crying out loud?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just insane. I have a thing on here from New York City schools that have the books, and they actually say what is in the books. And there was a book for first grade, and it's called "I'm Not a Girl, It's a Transgender Story."
Mm-hmm.
First grade approved reading.
Right.
And so, Paige, I have this question I have to ask you, because I get in arguments with people all the time because, I
never
opinionated.
do.
Okay.
I never do.
So, but I don't do it on a larger scale like you do, but I have these little discussions. And
not that we don't want to.
So what I really like to hear, and actually, and I'm being sarcastic when I say that, is when you have people tell you who agree with this going on to teach transgender in kindergarten, first grade. It's because the parents aren't maybe telling those kids what some other people think they should be telling them. So I actually had some people tell me that, well, this has to be taught this way because when those kids go home to their parents are probably racist, they're probably this and probably that. And I said, okay, hold on a second, because I stopped them right now. And I said, because I don't necessarily agree with their lifestyle, doesn't mean that I hate them.
Right.
It doesn't mean that I don't like them. It just means that it doesn't make sense to me. Okay. So you are saying now that going home and talking to a parent like me, I would be, according to these surveys, I would be targeted as a potential problem in the development of this child. And that's where I have a problem with, because I am not racist. I am not a bigot. I am not any of those things. I have my beliefs, and I want them respected as I respect other people to have their beliefs. So how do we, and especially with Moms for Liberty, how do we get to the point, because I'm sure you're hearing a lot worse than this, mm-hmm. but how do we get to that point where it's saying, okay, stop labeling it and just let's think common sense? How do we move beyond this?
That is the $1 million question. And I will give you the $1 million answer. Because I honestly believed at the beginning of all this, we all just needed to sit down and have a conversation. Because what you don't know is when you close that classroom door, nobody really knows what goes on in the classroom. You have no idea. And so why parents would say, oh, well, you were a great teacher because you never did that. You're right. I never did. Look at my class scores were phenomenal because I was there to teach. Mm-hmm. But then you also have to know there's the other side to this. You've got teachers that do this all day long and they don't do teaching. They are basically doing a whole lot of social emotional learning. They're doing a lot of this stuff, but they're not teaching what we would expect, what you send your kids to school for.
Yeah.
There is,
correct.
I used to think we could all just come together and get this worked out. That's not going to happen. This is a far greater,
nope.
It used to be kids were off the table. We could have all kinds of issues going on, but you leave the kids alone. Now they're coming for your children.
Yeah,
exactly. It's indoctrination of their minds.
And if you don't agree with it, you're wrong and you're the problem. So that's why we're seeing now that parents are getting turned into child protective services. Mm-hmm. The schools think they have a right to do this. They have a right to seek medical attention for your child. There are some schools that are giving hormone blockers. This is starting. And basically what I've had to start telling parents is you have to start pulling your kids.
We went.
So you're saying, sorry, Jim, but you're saying, Paige, that pulling them from the schools themselves. So either a different school, like a private school, maybe, or homeschooling,
right?
Correct. Is kind of
there is some online K-12 schooling that is coming up.
Yes,
it's popping
correct.
up, and so I think that might be something that becomes fairly popular. But Paige, we've been talking about this, and what really bothers us is we have schools that are actually taking a child, okay, 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, who comes in and they say they're confused and they want to go through this change. There's these schools that are actually helping this child go through the change without notification of parents.
Correct.
And as a teacher and as a counselor, even a counselor for elementary, middle school, or high school, you are not trained to teach a child the physical, the psychological changes that this individual is going to be going through. And to do it without a parent's help, to me, is barbaric. So do you not agree that these teachers and counselors are not able and not prepared to do this?
Absolutely, 110%. That's why I didn't do it. I am a teacher, and I was an excellent teacher, and I have no problem saying that. I have the documentation to back that up. But I am not. And here's what I like to tell parents, and this is another thing. Be very careful when you go to enroll your kids or you go at the beginning of school of what you're signing. Because they give you a bunch of forms all at once and you just sign away and you haven't read them. You need to say, you know what? I'm going to take this home and I'm going to read everything here. There's something called informed consent.
Oh, please.
And let me explain what informed consent is. We'll say I'm teaching second grade. Animal adaptations is one of our big things that we teach. So we take the kids to the zoo. All right.
Yep.
And if I just sent you home with your child that said, "Hey, we're going on a field trip, sign here," right?
I'd be a little concerned.
Like, well, how about a little bit more?
Where, when, how?
Exactly. So instead, we send you a permission slip that says on September 4th, we are taking your child to the Indianapolis Zoo. We will be leaving school at 8:30. They need a sack lunch and a drink. We will be leaving the zoo at 1:40, and we plan to be back to the school by 2:15. That is informed consent. We are telling you everything we are doing with your child. And as a parent, you have a right to say no. And we've had parents that said no because they're in this huge custody battle or they've been given custody. And you know what? Quite frankly, I don't want to be responsible for that either. When you take it to a large public place, when there's a lot of people, that's why, we used to post all this stuff online. We don't do any of that now. We've learned the hard way.
Sure.
That you can't do that. And so the way that they get through with this is legally, when I have your child in my classroom or I'm on the field trip, I am legally in loco parentis, which means legally I can make decisions for your child. Now, that's very, it's a broad term, but it came about, I believe the court law or the legal, what happened was there was a bus accident. The child needed a transfusion. And the teacher said, gave the permission because they couldn't get a hold of parents and everything. Well, I believe they were Jehovah's Witnesses.
Oh, boy. And
they don't do that. Well, the teacher allowed it, said yes. And it's to save the child's life. I mean, that you don't do that. The kid and the parents sued. And the courts, said no. Legally, she had every right to do that because that's the duty she's been given, is to protect and make the decisions for your child. If you can't be there and the children are under 18, they can't make those decisions. So that's how that was used. And that's how loco parentis came into view. So we legally can make decisions for your children. Well, they have taken that way, way out of context. And, they ask, one of the questions they ask or they tell, because you know what, we're going to have so many transgender people. It's historically unbelievable. But one thing they have said to middle school kids, if you're not comfortable in your body, you're probably transgender. I don't know any middle schooler that's comfortable in their body. I mean, their bodies are changing. Yeah. I think whoever invented middle school is somewhere laughing. I mean, you put kids in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade in one building together that are all going through puberty, and you lock the doors. I mean, what could possibly go wrong here?
Exactly.
My mom did it for 20 years, and I was the story she would say, and everybody's crying, and I'm like, okay. But middle schoolers aren't comfortable in their bodies.
No,
and
never.
It takes a long time for us to become comfortable, if ever. I mean, I'm not even going to get into that, but just because you're not comfortable in your body does not mean you're transgender,
right?
Or gay, anything. Or any of that.
Right. When you start sexualizing children from the time they're in kindergarten, they don't really think about those things at all. We've never done that before. And the other thing we're not teaching our kids to love our country.
Bingo.
And that was huge. We had a program called We the People. And fifth grade, in fifth grade, the standards are to teach, American history and to teach our Constitution. And the kids used to love that. Absolutely love that.
Sure.
And I'm not saying all of our founders did the right thing, but you cannot look through a lens of 2022 and judge them back in 1776.
Correct.
And that's what we're doing. And so we want to change history. We can't. That's the best way to have it repeat itself is to change it.
Right.
Because it gets lost. They don't remember that. There was no longer slavery, because we're not going to talk about it. Or there was no longer, correct. That's a big, big, big point. I wanted to really briefly go back to the survey thing. I meant to kind of, sorry about that, to backtrack, but this really intrigues me, because what is being asked then in these surveys that, and I know they're not academic questions, but what is being asked, and are these surveys for kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade? Is it K through 12 surveys?
We started doing K through 10. Then I don't believe they do.
It's K through 10
because they're leaving. They can't do a lot.
Correct. They don't matter anymore.
During the pandemic, our middle schools and high school are so big that the kids were going every other day. And they sent out, the middle schools did a survey and a panorama survey, and some of the kids were at home. And this is, you're talking 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. So you're talking about, anywhere from 11, 12, 13. So that age.
Correct.
Kids are at home. Parents are at home. It's COVID. And one of the question pops up is, do you support abortion? A lot of these kids didn't even know what that was.
Sure.
So what do? They yell out, "Hey, Mom, do we support abortion?" And the mom were like, "What are you doing?" So parents came over and they saw this. Well, they start then taking pictures. The next one was, do you think the government should support Planned Parenthood? These kids don't even know what Planned Parenthood is.
Nope.
You know what?
Nope.
I just let the kids be little. Please. Let them. They only get to do this for so long. But
correct.
And that's what really sounded the alarms, because the parents then got to see for themselves. And that has nothing to do with academics.
And that's nationwide, correct, Paige? If I'm not mistaken, that's or Panorama. That's a nationwide.
Well, you need to find out if your state has a contract.
Once
you do that, and it was interesting because I had a phone call, somebody calling, and I wish I'd written down their name and what they said, but at the beginning of a conversation, I get a lot of phone calls. They wanted to know how I got a hold of the state contract because I hadn't FOIA'd it. No, I didn't.
Yeah.
And
wow.
I've also learned silence is my friend. I don't have to fill in And they just said, well, you didn't FOIA it. And I just said, no, I didn't. Dead silence. And then finally they said, well, where did you get it? And I said, why do you need to know that information?
Mm-hmm.
Dead silence.
Well, why do they?
Exactly. Yeah. It's none of your business. And, finally I said, this has been a great conversation. Thanks for calling. There's something. Go ahead.
And who do you even know? Like, what was it? An organization they were calling from?
Was it from them? The IDOE. That's what I think. Indiana Department of Education. All right. Because I had, and I was talking about their contract, and I don't think they liked it.
Okay.
And I think it's important too, because you also mentioned this when we were talking on the phone, which that conversation was great, which is why we look forward to hearing this. But you also mentioned about Panorama that the Zuckerbergs and the Gates had.
Bill
his wife have something, because I think that's important to mention.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Mark. Yep. Yeah. When you start looking at who all's involved at Panorama, and they may have cleaned their website up, because like I said, all of this was on their website. It's not like I did this deep hidden dive. I went on their website. Yeah. Like I said, look right here. It's a guide to tracking SEL interventions in Panorama. Now, we're going to talk about the interventions in just a minute, because that's something parents, you also need to know about. But Mark Zuckerberg and the Zuckerberg Foundation, follow the money. They put money into it, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation put money into it. Mm-hmm. So, and with Merrick Garland's, being involved in this whole thing, he doesn't have clean hands either.
Nope.
Nope.
And to call us domestic terrorists lets me know he's also deeply involved in this, because
Correct.
There was no reason for that. None at all.
And has Moms for Liberty been, and groups and yourself and anybody been basically shadow banned from social media sites because of your stance?
I believe what happens is they put our stuff lower so it doesn't have the exposure.
Gotcha.
I believe that's what happens.
Yeah, I think the algorithm kind of sets it up.
And it's important to point out, Paige, because I want to make sure that everybody out there understands that you are a bipartisan group.
Absolutely.
You do not have you have conservatives, you have liberals in your organization. So I want to make sure that everybody understands that this is a grassroots organization that only cares about the education of our
We
children.
are not now. In fact, we can't back any candidate. The only candidates we can back are school board candidates. Right. And our school board, you don't even declare if you're Republican or Democrat. What we are going to do is vote. We are going to represent, and we will endorse candidates that are going to be for the parents. Period.
Right. Simple.
That's what we
period.
want.
Regardless of political background. Doesn't
care.
Matter.
Are you going to be for getting the parents back in the school? Are you going to start being transparent with what's going on?
Right.
Carmel's in a whole nother mess because they had a school that they shut down. And right before the law came in that, they had a charter school could buy it for $1, they made an agreement with the Carmel Parks Department that they were going to turn the building over to them and all this other stuff. Well, now there's a lawsuit because they won't turn it over to the charter school.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's.
Do you have a school board election coming up this November? Are there seats going to be available to make those changes?
We have a 5-member board, and we have 3 seats available. Right.
Oh, nice.
But here's what everybody needs to understand with that. Let's say we take all 3 seats. It is going to take years to rectify this. This is not going to be something that is a quick cleanup.
It's not where the fight ends.
It's just the beginning. Yeah. And so what I want to tell parents is, and what I have said is, you need to pull your kids. And right now, the only thing we've done that really Carmel's really paid attention to is the fact that this year they're operating on a $2 million deficit because of enrollment.
Oh, because parents are pulling
Well, they don't think that. They just think enrollment has magically gone down although our city continues to grow.
Yeah.
They live a lot in the magic land, we call it.
Yeah.
But that would be my biggest thing, is to get parents to pull, because your children are dollars to them.
Yes.
And they're big dollars. In fact, and the laws keep changing. It's amazing how, they make it work for them. It used to be they had a day that was the attendance day. They had one in September and one in February. And that was what we called count day. And we turned those numbers into the state, and that's the number that they were paid for the semester for that number of kids. And then there was another one again in February. Well, they changed it now because I think they knew people were going to start keeping their kids home on count day. So now you don't actually have to be there. You just have to be enrolled.
Wow.
And it's just,
they changed it. So they changed it. So taking them out is the only way, really, to not count them at this point. So, that makes sense.
We had the president prior to Trump, President Trump, the president at that time, made comments about, because one of the things that your Carmel is an example of some two schools up in the area where I'm from that are building because people are moving out of the public school. Okay, you have Indianapolis public schools, and then Fort Wayne community schools are the two largest school systems in Indiana. So the outskirts, the Carmels that you mentioned, here it's Homestead and Carroll. They're growing exponentially. I mean, I live in the Carroll district now, and I can tell my taxes keep going up. And I don't like it very well, but anyway, but it's the blame was because, and he did say this, okay, so I'm not making this up, so I don't want to get emails or anything like that, but he said that it's because the white people are moving out of the inner city areas, and that's why those schools are failing. No, that's not why those schools are failing. They're failing because they're listening to, whether it's a politician or the leaders in those communities, that are not helping them get better. They're not. They're just not helping them get better. So your school system, as Carmel and here, have grown because of that, right? Because 20 years ago, Carmel probably wasn't even at the time thought of, right? I mean, it was, or maybe thought of, but it was a lot smaller than it is now.
Right.
And so that's one of the things that I get bothered by. It's because when somebody makes a comment like that, like him, because, Barack Obama, it was, black people, he was a beacon. All right. He was somebody to look up to because here's a black man in the highest position in the world. But him saying stuff like that and other people saying stuff like that, parents move their children out of these schools because of situations like this, or because the schools were failing education-wise. So your group, I know I'm trying not to make this political, but sometimes you have to. But when irresponsible comments like that make statements, people don't grow.
Right.
People don't improve. So your group, Moms for Liberty, how do we get the Moms for Liberty group to get into the inner city schools, the Fort Wayne community schools, the Indianapolis public school systems? Because that, in my opinion, is where parents need to really push. And if you don't, I just don't see it getting better.
It's going to take volunteers in those areas. Yeah. I mean, they can do it, right, Paige?
Right.
I mean, anybody can, like you said,
there's also another problem that we haven't really talked much about. We have children that are out of control. And I've had friends that taught in IPS that have left. We've had a teacher that was, an art teacher was sexually assaulted in IPS, and the student was not removed from the school.
Oh, boy.
When you have kids that are out of control and you allow them to run the school, that is not conducive to learning. And, we have not to that degree, but, part of this that we had was we introduced safe spots into our classrooms, which I really didn't agree with, because then you're saying the rest of my room is not safe. And then, and supposedly the kids could go sit in there when they were feeling stressed or whatever.
Tell us more about that, Paige, because there's some interesting things regarding that.
So we introduced safe spots. There's something I want to introduce to everyone, because in the state of Indiana, you must have a school improvement plan. And these are all available at the Indiana Department of Education. They have to be posted. Our schools used to have them posted on their website. And I think they still are. They just really hit them a lot because they don't want parents to know.
Yeah.
But when you look at a school improvement plan, they have basically 3 major goals. The first one is social emotional learning. This is from my school. High quality instruction, technology integration, and equity, diversity, and inclusion. Those are the goals. Now, none of them doesn't say that our kids are going to achieve. Where is student achievement? It's not on here. This is a 3-year plan that does not include student achievement.
Wow.
That's a huge problem. I don't send my kids to school for social emotional learning. I do send them for high quality instruction, but what they consider to be high quality instruction and I consider to be high quality instruction are really 2 different things. Technology.
What are they instructing them on, basically? Is what?
Well, we have professional development, choice activities. Let's see. They're high quality instruction. There's not a lot of that. In fact,
there's probably a lot on the diversity and equity portion.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, new staff training on safe spots and community circles. Here we go. All staff will be onboarded with these 2 priority SEL practices. And that was August of 2020. Fidgets, carpets, posters, and other SRE created resources, $200. Then they were going to do a safe spot audit and walk through data. How about that? You guys are going to love this.
Go on, bring it on.
We, all students, K-5, will have access to the Rocket Retreat for emotional regulation.
Tell us more. Yeah.
Rocket Retreat.
Rocket Retreat.
Is it at NASA?
Yep. Now, I was there for this implementation. So I was present for this one.
So you're present for the Rocket Retreat. Yes. Please tell me.
Friends.
Tell me what a Rocket Retreat is.
It was a smaller classroom that wasn't used much, and it was turned into the Rocket Retreat. They will, they could go down there anytime they felt like they needed to regulate their emotions. Or anytime they just wanted to get out of class.
That's, I think, probably 99.9% of them. That's what they did.
So they had a blow-up canoe in there. They had a bed. They had light brights. They had puzzles. They had games. They had books. They had coloring books. They had big coloring books. They had markers, pencils, pens, a lot of games.
I want to go there now.
It was kind of like a mini Toys R Us. Just kind of think about that.
Yeah.
And then we had an instructional assistant that worked with kids, but no, she's going to be sitting down there waiting for kids that need to regulate their emotions to come in. So taxpayers,
whenever they want.
So taxpayers, you are now paying for an instructional assistant to not be with kids, but to sit in the Rocket Retreat in case someone needs to regulate their emotions. Now, remember, your instructional assistants may not even be certified teachers, and they are definitely not licensed counselors to help
Correct.
children.
So why would they be in there?
Regulate their emotions. Well, and I was teaching 4th or 5th grade at the time. Well, no one has more friend trouble than 4th and 5th graders.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I would hear them out in the hallway. Let's all go down to the rocket retreat so we can discuss our problems. And let's go at 1:15, which just happens to be math.
Oh my God.
And so I did raise my hand and I said, well, these kids are going to be missing instructional time. Is it the teacher's job or the instructional assistant's job to let the parents know their kids are missing instructional time? Well, we're not going to do that because these kids are doing what we want them to do, and that's learning how to regulate their emotions.
Whose harebrained idea was this?
Well, it's part of the SEL curriculum.
Folks, you just heard part 2 of our interview with Paige Miller, Moms for Liberty. Paige, thank you again. I'm sure everybody's looking forward to part 3 and part 4 because it's just much more information.
It was the fastest, almost 2-hour interview that you could have because it was just,
oh my gosh.
And it's like, oh boy, we're going to have to spread this out. So
if Jim, you and I and our wives went out to dinner with Paige and her husband, we'd probably have to reserve the room for a good 4 to 5 hours.
Absolutely.
It's just that there's so much to know and there's so much we don't even know still. And that's why she has agreed to tentatively come back in August with more updates.
And keep in mind something about her group, Moms for Liberty. Just about every one of these individuals that are involved in this group are just like her.
Oh yeah,
they're just like her.
That's right.
She is
like her.
She is a phenomenal
the people
individual.
behind the scenes she talked about in the first part of the interview. The behind the scenes people, the anonymous ones, the ones that really can't put their face out there for obvious reasons.
Yeah, when you hear the stories
doing the work,
doesn't that bother you when you hear stories about current teachers that want to speak out so bad against this stuff, but they know they can't because of the backlash they would get?
Or a current parent who's working for a liberal company, it doesn't matter. The list goes on and on. They can't speak out, for fear of retaliation from either school boards, other parents, your boss at work, whatever it is. It's really sickening. But yeah, you guys, you got to keep following that group. They're on Facebook. Go on,
there's Moms for Liberty. You have to be allowed in there.
You do, as rightfully so. They vet you.
A lot of hate. Our wonderful Attorney General Merrick Garland doesn't help any either. But
well, that's right. Or Chuck Schumer, any of those people pushing a domestic terrorism.
And if you're still following anything that Chuck Schumer says or Nancy Pelosi says, then I pretty much have no use for you anymore.
Or Mitch McConnell or Lindsey Graham. If you're following any of those people, move on, move away, move somewhere. Just leave. Canada, I heard Canada. I heard it's really nice in the winter.
Yeah, you're taking oxygen away from the rest of us.
You are. You are.
But anyway, it's a great organization. It's Moms, the number 4, Liberty.org. Look them up.
Correct. Look them up.
You can look them up on Facebook. There's a lot of them. Okay, any county that has them,
because each branch, any county, they have them out there.
We encourage you where you live. Go out and look. See if you have one in your county. And hey, if you're a parent and have kids in elementary school that are wondering, wow, is this going to happen in my school? Start one.
Join the group.
They'll show you how to do it. They'll help you get started. Yep. This is a wonderful group. They're absolutely fantastic. It's a bipartisan group. They have liberals in it. They have conservatives in it. All they care about is your kids' education. That's in what they learn. That's it.
Yep.
So
that's all they care about. Jim, anyways, good show. Yep. People, thank you for listening. We ranted a lot today.
Yeah,
we were pissed. We're
going to make some people mad because there's people out there that think George Floyd is a saint. So
I don't care about those people.
He's not.
I don't.
He's horrible.
I just don't. And again, I apologize for my language. I know that's not for everybody, but just know that we're not for everybody.
Passionate.
So
we're very passionate.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're not
we
for
are.
everybody.
Well, you know what? I'm not sorry. I'm not going to apologize for that. We are very passionate.
Don't apologize for that.
We are very passionate
about our
people about what we feel, and
100% correct too.
Well, I would say that we are. But
we're a little biased, but yeah.
But you know what?
At least we try to report correctly.
And if you call
our opinions are our opinions.
If you call and insult us, okay.
Right.
Guess what? We have thick skin. We let it roll off, and I have thicker skin than Dale. But we
are insulted every day on social media, and I love it. Bring it on, libs.
But we don't let it. We don't cry in a corner, and we don't ask for people to be shut down. We don't. We will never do that.
Nope.
We are not for boycotting anything.
Nope.
So hey,
people have the decision to do that.
If I choose not to buy something from Starbucks, that's my choice. And people are,
and it's the right choice, by the way.
And people can agree with me that you're wrong. Good, way to go.
Good. We don't care. Anyways, guys, please remember to follow us on YouTube, on Rumble. You can hear us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, anywhere you hear podcasts. Facebook, 2 Guys 1 Coup. Follow us on TikTok, 2 Guys 1 Coup. Whether you like it or not, TikTok, it's
still have the song going through my head every time I hear it.
Still, I don't want to hear it, Jim. You keep talking about music and shit, and I don't care because your taste in music is horrible. Anyways, guys, please remember and to share. You especially the, I don't give a crap that people listen to Jim and I. Fast forward, whatever. That's fine. They don't want to hear us. I get it. Sometimes I don't want to hear Jim. I get it. So what I'm saying is that if you want to fast forward through that crap, do it. But listen to the Paige interview. Listen to Paige Miller's and what she says and how she presents it and the information she has, and share that with every parent, every school board member, everybody friends, family, Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter. That's all that matters is her message. Yeah. So share those.
Because if it's not in your school now, it's coming.
Mm-hmm. It's coming soon. It's coming. And I would bet it's in their school now and they don't even know it. I would almost bet that. Jim, thank you very much. Great show. Again, thank you everyone for listening. Please, again, share the hell out of us. We really do appreciate it. It means a lot to us too. We thank you all for that. Jim, we will see you on Thursday.
I'll be here.
Adios, my friend. Bye.